Sigma are releasing a new lens for Fujifilm XF mount. It's an ultra telephoto lens, which is exciting just by itself. It's the 100 to 400mm f5 to 6.3 DGDN OS contemporary lens, which is quite a long name. But the lens itself is actually not as big as you might expect for a super telephoto like that. Of course, because it's an APS-C system, you are actually looking at an equivalent focal length if it's full frame of about 150 to 600. So it's a really very versatile focal range that you're able to play with there. Great for stuff like wildlife, for sports, but also for things like landscape, maybe even portrait. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do with a lens like that. 150 actually feels, yes, wide is a little bit of an extreme term for 150mm, but 150 feels quite wide when you're talking 150 to 600. And there's a lot that you can do with that kind of focal range. This lens is actually already available for Sony E-mount and also for L-mount as well, but there are just a couple of little differences here on this lens, and it's nice to see this in the Fujifilm space on that XF mount. And before we talk about image quality, let's just touch on the lens itself. This has got to be one of the lightest ultra telephoto lenses that are available. This really does feel, it feels very nice in the hands. And if you're pairing it up with something like an X-T5 or an X-Stage 2, this is going to feel very, very nice to actually hold and to use. And it makes handheld shooting and actually walking around with the camera in your hands much easier and much, much nicer. It's also only about 20 centimeters in length when you're not zoomed, which means that fitting it in your bag is a lot easier than some other telephoto lenses. And that just really adds to the versatility of what you can do with a lens like this when it comes to the kind of stuff you can shoot, but also the shooting experience itself. Now, image quality wise, which of course is the most important thing when it comes to a lens, is really, really nice. You're looking at 22 elements in 16 groups, including 4 super low dispersion elements and 1 FLD element. And that means that you're getting really maximum detail with some lovely sharpness. And the images they look super, super nice. They are very, very sharp. You get some lovely, beautiful bokeh. The lens compression looks really good. I was out shooting small birds. I was trying to do kind of tracking birds in flight as well. And it's just a really lovely lens to actually shoot with, both optically, but also the design of it as well. Optically, I think the images look fantastic. I love the colors. I love the contrast. And actually going out and shooting and having to react quickly to seeing a small bird before it flies off or trying to track a bird, the actual weight and the size of this lens just made it a lot easier and a lot nicer, actually, to go out and shoot that kind of stuff with it. You also have a minimum focusing distance here of about 112 centimeters, which is actually pretty close, especially for a super tele like this. And that means you can get in pretty close to your subject if you want to. If you're taking a photo of something, maybe it's not going to work perfectly for wildlife, because if you get that close, I would imagine they're probably going to move. But flowers or anything else, it's not going to replace a macro lens, but it's going to do a pretty good job. Now, on the lens itself, we do see a new AF function button, which replaces the AF/MF switch. And that allows you to switch between AF lock and AF activation. And I've got to say, the autofocus here works super well with the Fujifilm cameras. With those Fujifilm systems, so the X-T5, for example, like I say, the X-H2, it all works seamlessly with this lens. It's nice and fast, it's nice and snappy, it's nice and sticky on your subject. Really, really enjoyed that. You also have up to 5 stops of image stabilization in the lens as well, which is really going to help again for handheld shooting. And this lens really does feel like it's designed to be handheld most of the time. That's down to the weight, the size, it just feels right in the hand. And you don't have kind of aching arms after even being out for an hour or 2 hours, actually just walking around with this lens shooting handheld. Now, there's no tripod collar on the lens, which I've got to be honest, I really didn't miss it actually at all. I didn't even think about it until later in the day, when I suddenly just realized, oh, there's no collar on here. You can get it as an optional extra if you do think you're going to be using tripods a little bit more often. Otherwise, I think probably because of the weight of this lens, Sigma just didn't feel that it was as necessary as on a big, chunky, heavy ultra telephoto lens. I've got to say as well, the zoom ring is very nicely weighted on this lens, but you don't have to use that. You can also just use this kind of pushing and pulling the lens. And it almost feels like the lens is designed with that in mind. It feels like, there's almost little grooves for your fingers to actually fit onto. And that is certainly a very easy and quick way to actually use this lens when you're out in the field and you need to zoom quickly to get the shot. I think this is a great addition from Sigma to the XF mount lineup of lenses. I think it's a fantastic addition as a super telephoto lens in that ecosystem. I think because of the size and the weight, I think it's going to appeal to a lot more people. I think it's much more usable. It feels very, very versatile. Great on the front of those smaller Fujifilm cameras. And if you're looking for an ultra telephoto lens like this, or just a very versatile all-rounder long lens, this is a great great option. Now you can check out the lens, the full spec, all the pricing, all that stuff by following the link down in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe because there's new stuff all the time. I'll see you next time, but until then, as always, thanks for watching.